I have a confession to make. I don't believe in barriers for open innovation. In fact, we, 100% Open, don't believe in barriers for open innovation. We believe there are a whole bunch of accelerators that people aren't pressing or aren't aware of. And so the barriers kind of appear as things that get in the way. So I'll just whiz you through 3 examples of where I think we've surmounted such barriers by pressing the accelerator and kind of ignoring them. Talking of pressing the accelerator. First thing, I think it was Jogesh alluded to, is the question of false negatives, or how to pick winners. So here are 2 goldfish, and one is saying, are you the next Google? And the other saying, no, I am a goldfish. As an innovator, it's very difficult to tell a goldfish from the next Google. So how do you do that? Well, here's one example of how to pick winners. And the answer, short answer, is you let your customers do it, rather than try and do it yourself. This was a project called Power to the People, which we ran last year with E.ON, the energy company. It was a customer co-creation project. It launched in October of last year, seems like a long time ago, seeking specific £10 million propositions so far. So normal, it's open innovation after all. What was different about this is the people that we were talking about here were drawn from E.ON's own customer panel. So our theory was, why couldn't you buy from your customers as well as sell to your customers? And any utility company like E.ON must have thousands of guys in sheds or in baths and people dreaming up new stuff. In fact, a lot of them will work for SMEs that are entrepreneurial. Many of them will be inventors. Many of them will be, like you guys, working for organisations that could engage with them. So why just treat them as people to sell power to? So we did that, and we set up a website, recruited 1,500 people to it, and guess what? E.ON's customer base was full of ideators, entrepreneurs, and innovators. On this site, it was a crowdsourcing type site. I don't really have time to go into it, but that we designed and ran, full of interesting questions and fascinating answers. So again, so far so good. The trick here was to ask the crowd to vote and to rank and to rate and to build and to contribute to those ideas. So what popped out of the end of this process, the 6-month process, wasn't just a bunch of ideas that you'd had in a workshop. They were pre-approved. They were pre-vetted and by E.ON's very own customers. So one answer to the vexing question of how you pick winners is you don't. You actually let your customers do it. There's a bunch of figures, all good. So and there are 2 new technologies in prototype now that came out of that. And we're working again. In fact, if you watch TV in January 16th, isn't it, Roland? There's E.ON is sponsoring a new program about innovation called Future Family, where a family get to play with all sorts of new gizmos. After that program, they come onto our new site and innovate. So it's gone from a smallish proposition into a national proposition. So we're expecting 50,000 people on this site, and we won't get much sleep, I think. So the second question is, where on earth do you start? And we alluded to that in some of the speakers that we've had. Here's a trick really we learned with Orange in that first project that Jogesh was talking about. And I don't know how you feel about this, as perhaps being on the other end of open innovation, but unless there's a clear business model, unless there's a clear ask, unless there's a clear kind of win-win, I would believe someone described it as, then suspicion and distrust and ignorance kind of take over. So why not have a business model? And that's what this is. So we've got 4 types of business model, open business model this is. We go from closed all the way through to co-creation. And again, I don't really have time to present it, but it's on one of our blogs. There's a whole bunch of different business models from R&D and market research and Kaizen in the middle, the closed end, all the way through to licensing, co-branding, spinning out, taking a stake, joint venture, and open source right at the end. So there's a sort of, that's a conversation you can have with potential innovators. Where do you want to be? Over here. Over here. Let's talk about the options. And that's a great way to start, because then levels of distrust go down. So here's a project we did with Cancer Research UK called the Open Ventures Challenge. You wouldn't expect a charity like Cancer Research UK to be interested in venturing, but they were, hence the Open Ventures Challenge. So we built a community of entrepreneurs, again to generate funds of £10 million per annum. And I think why it was so engaging in retrospect was that people kind of knew what to do. They want to buy my business, or they want me to set up a business to donate some of the funds to cancer research, because that question had been answered up front. So that's kind of where you start. And that was very successful too. And the third barrier I want to talk about, which I don't believe in, is how do you find common ground? So what's the sweet spot between you, huge company, and you, small company or customer? Or you, partner and peer. So this is a nice car, actually. Let's look at that for a bit. That's a McLaren, and we helped, so McLaren Mercedes, helped Nats and McLaren find their sweet spot in between a racing car company, Formula One company, and Nats, the National Air Traffic Service. They're responsible for the smooth running of the airports in the UK. In concert with an organisation called HI Network, whose members these guys were, we established a programme called Corporate Connections, and the idea was to try and find these sweet spots. So what does a Formula One design and manufacture company have in common with Nats or with Philips or with anyone else who was there, with Virgin? Well, not much, as it happened. And we expected there to be some chat about carbon fibre technology and, kind of maybe regenerative braking, how you could use that on a plane. What happened was an accident, a beautiful accident. It was serendipity that was managed afterwards. Because they just had a race in China, we went into a room which was supposed to be locked. We saw their race control panel and their software, and it occurred to Peter at Nats that actually the very same predictive software that they were using to outwit competitors in the Chinese Grand Prix 3 years ago would be great for getting planes up and down on time, and to predict what would happen when there were delays at airports, which is costly, massively costly for the environment and time, and imagine all the stuff that goes on around a plane. So there was an unexpected collaboration that happened. So it's now being trialled at Heathrow and in Hong Kong, and there's a bit of the sort of data that went into prototyping that. So that's really how to overcome the last of those barriers. So that's all I wanted to say, and I've been a minute over. Thank you for letting me do that, guys. Much appreciated.